Okay, time to talk Ultimate Fighting UFC. To do so, we are joined by a man you might know as Hammer, Mark Castagnini. Great to see you in here, and what an agenda we have ahead over the next few weeks.
Well, absolutely sensational stuff coming up, of course, on Fuel TV. The UFC 122, it's going to be a stacked card. Some really hungry and staunch fighters that are going to throw down and let it all fly. It's a really good card that the UFC have put together for this one. There's a lot of fighters really on the brink of greatness. Probably not the A-list, I suppose, that you're used to seeing on the big cards, but some fighters that are really going to stand and trade. You know, the viewers are going to get a real treat with this one.
Tell us about who those fighters are, and where are the fights taking place? In Germany? In
Germany. In fact, an interesting side note on this one is we're going to be able to watch it, but the Germans are not. So there's they've actually the German government's banned this one airing on German TV.
If you know if there's a riot, you know who to turn to calm them all down. There'll be a few big boys there.
And they've also at the event they've not allowed minors in. So they've sort of gone into an area where there's a lot of resistance. But the UFC, of course, renowned for meeting challenges head on, and they're certainly going to do this with this card. Of course, we've got Nate McQuart fighting in the main event against a very tough Japanese journeyman Okami, and that's going to be, you know, the marquee sort of fight of the night. But for us Aussies on the local interest, of course, Kyle Lenoke. Of course, training out of Albuquerque now, Greg Jackson's gym, and formerly, well, he's still obviously a Queensland boy at heart. And you know the Queenslanders, when they fight, they always, you know, throw down. So Noak's going to be up against a very tough journeyman as well in Rob Kimmins. And he's going to have, you know, a big challenge ahead of him. But I think our boys got Kimmins' number.
Is that who we're watching on there on the screen? Who's that? Who are we seeing there on the screen?
You're seeing Noak right of screen.
Okay.
Nice push kick, nice Muay Thai, of course, grounding.
Right.
He's a really well-rounded fighter, Noak. He can stand and trade. He can defend well on the ground. He can submit a fighter on the ground. He could mix it up really well.
Well, it certainly looked that way. It looked like there were no rules there as well, mate, to be honest.
Which is a good point, because I might get you to explain to viewers exactly Ultimate Fighting. There doesn't appear to be any rules. I'm sure there are. Talk us through how it works.
Look, it's really what MMA stands for, mixed martial arts. Everything that martial arts is renowned for is put down. The cage, a lot of people will talk about cages, cage fighting, this and that, which is why the Germans have banned it. But in all honesty, from a fighter's perspective, I'd rather fight in a cage than a ring if I'm going to fight mixed martial art rules. And this is something that I've sort of gone loggerheads with the Minister for Sport in Victoria, because of course in Victoria we find, you know, the mixed martial arts is banned in a cage, but they can do it in a ring. It's actually safer in a cage because you won't slide out under the bottom rope, so on and so forth. But the rules are, they can stand and trade. You've got ground submissions and takedowns. It's a total combat sport is what, you know, the UFC and mixed martial arts is.
It's going to be a big sell though, isn't it? Because in Australia there is an unwritten rule dating back over the decades. You do not kick a man while he's down. Yet week in, week out, we see that on television. You can understand how people can't cop that.
Well, you can't kick them when they're down. That's a bit of a myth.
Okay.
But you can strike on the ground, you can ground and pound and look for your submissions. But the martial arts has been around for centuries. You know, we are martial artists. We train and prepare ourselves for combat, and you step in against someone who's equally as prepared to face that challenge. It's not about fighting on the street. It's not about taking advantage of someone who's less prepared than you. You get in, you train religiously. I mean, look at what Kyle Noak does. Trains in the morning, goes home, has a rest, goes back, trains in the afternoon, then at night does more strength and conditioning training. These are disciplined athletes that live their life with a very strict code and a lot of discipline. When they get in the octagon or they get in the ring with a Muay Thai fighter or a kickboxer, you're in there, you show ultimate respect for your opponent, you throw down and the best man wins at the end of the day. It's not a matter of taking advantage of anyone or glorifying violence or whatever, you know, whatever people want to throw at the sport. It's a very disciplined sport that's been underrated for too long, and it's about time that now people are watching it and appreciating, you know, these athletes that put their bodies on the line, you know, and ultimately, you know what, they're going to be doing it for the viewers of Fuel TV or Fox Sports. They get in there, they have a go, and they, you know, sometimes for very little payment in comparison to other sports, but they get in and have a go in order to entertain. And UFC 122, it's free to air, it's on Fuel TV. I mean, how great's that? You can sort of become, I suppose, accustomed to what the UFC is all about. It's not going to cost anything, and you'll see disciplined, hard men getting in, having a go, and then showing ultimate respect for each other at the end.
So in your mind, given the development and the popularity of the sport, is it more popular boxing at the moment? Can you see it becoming more popular than boxing? I mean, boxing's been through a bit of a popularity crisis over the years. Is this the thing to take this kind of thing into the future?
Look, Danny Green's a good mate. Green is a champion bloke, as with Kyle Noak. These guys are they're champion fighters, but they're champion human beings as well. They represent themselves well inside and outside the ring. Now, boxing has taken a bit of an 8 count, I suppose, but it sort of lacks the glitz and glamour and the trend that is now martial arts. Martial arts have been around for centuries. There's 2.6 million practicing martial artists all in Australia. That's the Australian Bureau of Statistics claim that. And there's a lot of people out there who are training from Taekwondo to Muay Thai to whatever it might be in the discipline. So there's a huge groundswell of people, that know of martial arts, and now with the UFC, they're seeing it in a very delivered in a very commercialised way. Yeah. So they see what they're learning in their dojos or their gyms, they're seeing it applied in what is, somewhat of a theatrical arena, which is your octagon or your cage, but it's no difference to a ring.
Are kids interested in this? I mean, how do you sell this kind of thing to a parent at school and say, look, because you probably wouldn't want them watching that, would you, if you had your 6-year-old or 7-year-old who might be interested in Muay Thai or kickboxing in some form or martial arts? There's ways to do that. How would you get them interested in this? Or because that's where you're going to struggle with the future, isn't it? Getting young kids to get interested.
A good point. I think. You have to have...
Any parent watching that has got to be asking questions, don't they?
Yeah, well, look, that valid point, as I said, but these guys are at the elite level. I mean, you watch someone take someone down in a rugby tackle, lift them up, bang them to the ground.
Yeah, but they're not in a cage beating each other, and certainly you could probably watch boxing where you would say there's a bit more technique and a bit more finesse, and you probably let your kid watch... You let your kid watch Muhammad Ali. I'm not sure you let your kid watch that.
Well... I've kickboxed, fought Muay Thai and dabbled now in mixed martial arts. And let me tell you, I had some serious headaches after a couple of the amateur boxing fights that I had with headgear. And, with fighting under Muay Thai rules, I've walked out, in a totally different sort of sphere, because it's not all about punching to the head. What happens here is you get a small cut and the blood will run. Now, if you cut yourself shaving, and you smear the blood around, it looks like you've had a massacre in the shower there in the morning. So sometimes, again, it's the theatrics of what's actually happening is actually a lot worse than what you're actually seeing.
All right, Hammer, that's very good, because that's a very robust discussion. We're just going to let our reviewers have a look at what's coming up on Fuel TV. You can see there's the big match coming your way live on Fuel TV. It's going to have massive coverage, of course, and you can see all the brutality, if you like, and all the finesse, if you like. Whatever way you want to look at it, Hammer.
And Mark, as you say, the proof is in the pudding. Fantastic growth in the popularity of this sport in Australia. You say it will continue to grow. And, mate, we really treasure your time here on The Long Lunch.
Thank you, guys, for having me. This is a great card, and I urge everyone who's not seen the UFC to check it out on Fuel. It's going to be awesome. There's a lot of local MMA coming up as well. So, from Melbourne to Sydney, check these events out and appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah, just don't have a long lunch beforehand unless you're watching it on Fox Sports. Thanks for your time. The headlines are up next.